Upgrades.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another review recap of the FX on Hulu show Class of '09. Here we are talking about episode 7, which is called Orders Nights. A lot like Judgment Night for some weird reason, but that's perfectly fine. It's your guy here, Lucas, with Sam Supercell 0320. Did I say that right? 0230.
No comment.
Hey, look here. Clearly, we have on the same clothes we had on in episode 6 review. So clearly, we're recording these reviews back to back. So I'm not going to ask him how's he doing, because if you want to know how he's doing, go check out episode 6 review and then come back to episode 7 review. And we'll perfectly find out how he feels. But let's quickly jump into this episode review as we start in the past here. And this is the recruits given their what's told to them is their final test, and this is the OC test. For someone who's been through the OC test multiple times, unfortunately, this is never a fun test to do. But here they go through the OC test. Amazingly, or not amazingly to most people, Poet is the first one who volunteers to go through it. Right after Poet, Teo volunteers to go through it. But Teo volunteers to go through it, and Teo does what Teo does best. He questions, why would this be the final test? As he brings it up to Gabriel and Drew that this is not a test of OC and how you could defend yourself if sprayed with it. This is a test about submission. And you submitting to orders that you and everything in you tells you is not right. And him asking Gabriel or telling Gabriel, I'll gladly take the test as long as you admit that this is the actual real reason for this test here. And Gabriel relenting. What do you think about this setup at the beginning? One, that they would even try to set this up as a final test. Poet jumping out there before anyone else and say she'll do it. And then Teo basically breaking down what the real test is.
Yeah, I mean, it's an embodiment of who these characters were since the first episode. I mean, you know, Teo said it about her, and Poet knows it about him. Like, she's all about getting it done, no matter what the risk or the cost, and believing that it'll just work itself out. And him rationalizing why does it have to be like this? What's going on with it? And I think with her, even Lennox was looking at her like, bro, you don't even know. You might fail.
Know what you're getting into.
Straight up, like, you may actually fail this, because anybody else, like, you maybe want to do it second because you don't know how the person's going to actually react to it. Like, you're like, okay, I can watch out for this. Like, she didn't even care. Like, she's like, I'd rather be the example or I didn't say the martyr, but in so many respects. And then when he kind of went up to it, he was like, bro, I know what this is. like I need you to relent and tell me exactly what this actually is, and then I'll, do it. Because Gabriel tried to play him for a little bit. He was like, are you saying you don't want to do this? And he was like, no, I'm not saying that. So I think they do a great job in the show of showing and defining these two different characters. They just unfortunately don't write Poet as good as she is on paper. I guess that's the best way I can kind of put it. Like, the characteristics of Poet are very admirable and brave, but her inconsistencies with some of the things that she does and doesn't do, like, it's a living example of just this. I was like, this girl's getting pepper spray and she got two people in front of her in the back of her. Like, what happens if you miscorrect? Like you are, you hit somebody else. Alternatively, like you could fail this. The thing that you're fighting your whole life for, it's gonna be gone in a second. But yeah, I think that was
Exactly. One, we understand Poet, and this is nothing but foreshadowing for the person that Poet is. That she would jump out there before anyone else to decide, hey, I'm just going to do it to get it over with, but I'm also going to do it to prove that I can do it.
Yep.
Versus Teo, who never stops thinking under any circumstance here when it pertains to humans. He never stops thinking. He's always thinking, what's the actual angle that you're going after here?
Yep.
So I think this is a perfect foreshadow of both of them, so we can see the way both of them move and operate. Because this episode does a lot to clear up the thought process of both of them.
Yep.
And here is just a great foreshadowing of it. And then believing what the Bureau tells you. They literally told you this is your final test. But as Teo said, I would accept this in combat training. But this is what this is combat training. Why would this be the final test?
Right.
It's Teo questioning something that makes no sense, and our being, I'm not going to say the mindless person, but the person who just doesn't care and just was willing to follow orders recklessly with no abandoning that this is clearly what they're saying or take it at face value, which is another flaw that they've brought up in the past about Poet, about taking things at face value here. So it's very interesting the way they set that two up. But next up, we get a montage of Teo explaining to Poet with her case of why she needs to use this system. One, Poet saying it would take me, I think she said, did she say months to read through all this material? And Teo telling her the system could do it in hours.
Oh no, she said years. I think
Years,
she said,
okay.
Yeah.
And he's telling her the system could do it in hours. One, that is telling you just how quickly this system goes through information.
It's crazy.
But it spits out a candidate, a suspect, someone they need to look into.
Mm-hmm.
And here, right after it spits out that name, Teo tells her this person has been questioned 6 times already, or multiple times already, about this case here. What did you think about one, Teo using our as a test subject here?
Oh, Poet.
And I mean, so yeah, him using Poet as a test subject here and telling her the system, more than anything, can help with your case.
Yeah, I mean, like Our asked him like, why are you using her? And he's like, because I knew for a fact she would follow this through. Period. Like she's always wanting to be first. That's just who she is. I was more so concerned like what it what is the end result here? Like if y'all know this is the situation, why wouldn't you have SWAT already on deck? Like why would you give Poet the authorization to follow it in this way? Because I was like, she's gonna push this too far. And just like the destruction of FBI building, just like every other test that she's gone through, just like even her following the other serial killers before, like she's not gonna think about like the ramifications of her actions. She's just gonna blindly go and do something. And I think that's what Our was very concerned about. And I think Teo as well, but he kind of knew that she'd be the best person to do it. And I think that goes back to what we talked about the last time when he put, what is it, Wesley, whatever his name, when he gave him the flash drive, like he knew that that was the best thing to do for him, but he didn't think about the ramifications of what, like the cost of life was in doing that. And I think he's doing the same as that thing here with Poet. Like he didn't think about the consequences of putting her in that situation, knowing full well what she's capable
of. Exactly here. And I mean, he clearly explains that to Our later on when she asks him, of all people, basically, why would you use Poet? And he says, Poet is always first on everything.
Yep.
Meaning she's willing to go head first into everything. even things other people aren't willing to go head forward to. What did you think about next up? The cat and mouse game, and it's very quick. Play between Poet and this suspect. Because I thought for this show, this was possibly the best piece of television I've seen on this show this season.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It reminded me of like the first season of True Detective. Like I was kind of like,
Mm,
she's. I was kind of like, it was weird to say this, but I wish I had seen more of this from Poet. Like if they would have had her like this through the present day, or even the future, like she was going through like cases like this would have been its own great show because like it shows how she's learned, adapted, gauges
uh-huh.
people, reads people. Like even that first episode when we kind of saw her like, in the institution and talking around, like
Mm-hmm.
those reflective characteristics of Poet are why I am invested in Poet. And they showed it to me in spades. It's just I question why not giving me this the whole entire time instead of these back and forth games with these relationships with these two people. But with this, like she systematically played him because she was slowly drawing him in, and I was all for it because I was like, okay, he's in a wheelchair. He's showing like, okay, he's got attachments. He's showing his hand because now he's like trying to show her around certain area. I'm like, he knows what she's doing, but he can't
Exactly.
help himself because he enjoys the idea of somebody getting that close but not being able to do it. Like, cause he said like several people have come in and do this and done that, and she's like, "Oh, that's because they didn't ask about this." And I don't know. I love this about Poet. I just regret that they hadn't done her like this the whole entire series.
Exactly. You, I think they hinted towards that this is the person that Poet always was. We saw early on with the bar situation with the cops when she had to go undercover.
Yeah,
Um, Poet can be forceful, especially when she thinks or she believes she has her man. And the back and forth between them two and how confidently she struts throughout this entire scene with this guy. It's almost like she fully understood after the system gave her the name, though, that she had her man,
yeah,
that this was the guy who was guilty. I just love the way she came across here with him. Every conversation led to another question. As even Teo eventually told her in her ear, like, you're pushing him.
yeah.
You don't need to go any further. We can send
Back
people
up,
there back
right?
up to you. Because by that point she had already broken him.
Yeah,
But this is where you see a little bit of Poet. A little bit was in Poet, the same thing we see in Teo.
yeah,
That need to be great.
yeah,
It just doesn't manifest the same way.
yeah,
Here is her need to get her guy. Because she had him dead to rights and she didn't need to do anything that she did after the fact.
yeah,
But she had him dead to rights. And we see what happens after the fact. She had him dead to rights. She still puts herself in complete danger by getting into the truck. And it took for the system to save her. What did
yep.
you think about the system saving her here?
I thought it was really freaking dope because before, I guess a year before, it was like this big old camera. Now I realize it's little buttons. I think I guess every agent, because I noticed it on Hour, I noticed on him like these little buttons that are not only cameras, but they also can be a flash. They also, like, I think from a technological standpoint, I thought that was really freaking dope. And honestly, I mean, yeah, it kind of proves Teo's point in so many ways because like she misstepped. Like she didn't have
Uh-huh.
to. Like she was waiting for him to strike her so she could be able to prove that he wasn't innocent. Like she was willing to put her life on the line, but she didn't think about the fact, oh man, if I die here, what did it matter? And
Exactly.
it's always been a reflection of her issue. Like she always has this need, to get what she perceives as the right thing, and be ahead of
Mm-hmm.
everybody else. And yeah, I don't know. Like that was a dangerous situation. They actually filmed that pretty well as well, because I was like,
Yes.
this is really believable, because now, the first thing was he knocked the gun out of her hand and all she had was the freaking spiral book. And if he would have clocked her one time, she would have been knocked out anyway, and it wouldn't have gotten to her in time. But I think it also brings awareness that how easily this man did this with the FBI trained agent. This
Yeah.
is how he's killed so many girls throughout this time. Like, yeah.
It's the best action set piece film that they've done since The Ranch.
Yeah.
It's amazing the way they set it up. That's the best way to put it. It's the best
Yeah.
way they set up action since The Ranch, which is highly important here. But next up, after this happens, is Teo meeting back with, I'm assuming this guy's the old head of the FBI. That's still not been explained to us, so who exactly this man is. But here, Teo telling him, I don't want to use the system just to go after regular people. I want to use the system to go after white collar crime. And him explaining everything that happened in the financial crisis, the people that got away with everything from the financial crisis. What do you think about the FBI's reaction? Because they gave him pushback in every way, shape, form, or fashion, down to saying banks fight back.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were trying to find a reason for him not to use this system on a bank.
Yeah. I think
And
that,
then go into the next scene, because I'm going to combine these two together. I'm sorry. I'm going to combine these two together. There's literally no reason to keep them separate. Right after this conversation, Teo actually uses it at a bank, and we see how it fully breaks them down. As the first thing he says is, if a person looks at your books, your profitable business, AI doesn't see any profit. What did you think about, one, his initial conversation with them about using the system, and two, the way he uses it on a bank?
yeah, I think that, especially during that time, they didn't want their funds or anything to kind of affect what the budget was for the FBI during that
Mm-hmm.
time, or, commercially or politically, they look like they're in the wrong,
Yeah.
because that could be a lot of blowback, from the overhead. And so from their heads, it's like nobody's ever gone up against, white collar crime in this situation, because the money is
Yeah.
everything. You have to have
Uh-huh.
money to be able to fund this. And what he's trying to do is dismantle all lines of corruption, which is insane, which is very ambitious, which I've never seen anybody do it like that or think about doing it like that. But we forget the first episode, he said, like, dude, I did stocks and I did all these things before. So he
Uh-huh.
knows the financial infrastructure as a whole. And when he went up in there and they kind of like played him, it's like, yeah, maybe you should talk over to that cop, because it's like, oh, y'all don't really know who this man actually is. Bet he's about to dismantle y'all right now. And I was there to see it. Like I really did actually love watching that scene. This is actually probably one of my, I ain't gonna say favorite episodes, but there was a lot of great scenes in this episode, and this is another one. It complimented Teo in ways that I was like, okay, he's going through every single measure of possible corruption and showing
Yep.
and proving. Because he said this to Hour, because Hour was kind of like, I think the scene before when Poet got in jeopardy, like she was like, I don't know about this, and he's like, you don't believe this will work? Well, you will. And I think he was trying to prove it to
Yeah.
her to give
Mm-hmm.
justification for him to move forward, whatever it means, whatever step, he's gonna do it. And this is a whole nother step that nobody's ever tried anything like that.
Yeah. And then next up, we get, I'm going to say, one of the most important conversations so far this season. And this is Amos and Teo. Right after he takes down the bank, and Amos says, "You're taking down the bank. What's next?" And Teo says, "Crooked politicians." Amos says, "Which one?" And Teo says, "All of them." And this is the first time we get Amos look like he's fearful of the system when he tells him, "We don't know what this system's going to pull up."
Yeah.
What did you think about? Because this is feels like a precursor to everything humanly possible about what this system could do. And this is just the first time that Amos has ever questioned what this system can do.
Yeah, because I think that it's so ambitious to do. It's like you can never guess. Like somebody might have like laundered money across, like they could like drug ring. They could, they could be having a school institution as a drug ring, and that institution, that educational institution, may go down immediately as soon as that person is flagged, just from what they bring up. So in his head, it's like, if you bring all this information out, kind of like the man that fell from Earth, when what's the name? I forgot that guy's name. When he kind of rationalized, like, break down the what that would do. I forgot the guy's name. The brother.
Not Faraday, is it?
Yeah, no, the brother. The brother. It was a brother and a sister, and the brother, he was the one that kind of made the odds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminded me of, that was where I think Ramos' head was going. It wasn't just like, oh, okay, we're gonna find out all this information about these politicians and they're gonna come after us. Like, no, like unearthing all these things may show even the FBI is involved with some of these corruptions. And I think that was a real fear, and that was a real rational thought, because once that's exposed, then what does the system do with that, and what do we do to handle that? And I think that it was a great question. I think it was a really good scene.
And next up, we get Orders Night. Now, I'm trying to think of the best way to frame this question here. Well, first we get Lennox. Lennox says he wants to go to DC. He gets DC. Next up, we get Poet. She does not care where she goes. She gets San Diego. First is the quick conversation that them two have about both of them seeming unhappy, even though Lennox is very obviously saying he know what he wanted. The final one is Teo says he wants Boston. He thinks he's going to end up in LA. And as a black man, he ends up in Billings, Montana. And right after this, we get Lennox saying he never wanted to go to DC.
No.
He actually wanted to go to San Diego. But he understood what his father wanted is what was going to happen to him. And then telling Poet, you're not going to San Diego.
Right.
It's almost like he already knew what was going to happen with her. Yeah. And we're going to talk about these two before we get to Teo's reaction about Billings, because that's a way more important subject. What did you think about these two, Lennox and Poet? Lennox's reaction to actually getting DC when he never wanted to be in DC, and him kind of already understanding that Poet wasn't getting her assignment.
Yeah, I think it's funny because the moment that he got what he got and she got what she got, like, she felt so comfortable. She was like, oh, okay, he's across the entire United States. Country. So like, there's no way we're going to compromise. Like, I'm going to show how I really feel, because now there's no possibility of her getting an actual involvement with him. So she's willing to kind of break some rules here or there. Because she got real close up to him, started like getting all giddy. But I think that he recognized, like, yeah, no, the FBI are going to use you. It ain't going to be in San Diego. It's going to be on some other craziness. But I think it's just, it shows the naivete of Poet. As smart as she is, when she knows human interaction, she's so freaking naive. It's annoying. I think that's the reason why our and her relationship just doesn't work, because she's moving through these channels like she really loves this woman. She really needs this woman, but then she's giving her attention to Lennox because superficially that's what she is conditioned to do. I don't know.
Yeah. There you go. You said no, you said it right. Either that or Lennox is actually who she actually loves.
I really don't even know, because we'll talk about it in the scene later on, but I feel like even that's
it didn't seem like love then. Yeah, it didn't.
It won't. And again, I guess from a written standpoint, if this was based on the book series, I would ask you, like, why is Our in this? Why is she a love interest? Because you're throwing me this other relationship that Poet hasn't even addressed the Lennox, because I was like, okay, eventually you need to tell Lennox, like, yeah, Hour has feelings for you. This never gets addressed at all. And anyway, we'll leave it alone. Doesn't matter.
It would be the equivalent of reading Twilight and them magically throwing a third love interest in from the vampire and the werewolf, and you'd be like, wait a minute, who the hell is this other person?
She's in love with a ghost. Like,
even better. Even better comparison here. It's the Asian girl that was in the Harry Potter series that they literally had in there for one movie. And you're like, wait a minute, why is this person Harry's love interest here? And she's only in here for one movie. It just feels thrown together.
So this is my theory with that, though, and I'm gonna say this, and that's not me being an Hour and Poet shipper. I'm not saying that, but from the beginning of this series, I could see maybe Lennox liking Poet, but I don't see Poet liking Lennox. It makes more sense for a woman that is dealt with what she's had to deal with, seeing her mother go what she had to go through, and not understanding like not understanding her sexuality, but understanding what she really wants.
What she wants in life.
And then connecting with somebody like Ours, as inquisitive and as smart as she is, like a sister. Their relationship makes more sense as a trajectory. Like, it seems like, to me, Poet and Lennox seems pushed together. On the framework of the way the show goes, it would have made more sense for her to continuously push Hour away out of devotion for this. Like, I think pushing Hour and Lennox, pushing Poet and Lennox together in a relationship is the inconsistent thing. I think that should have never, it should have ended with, okay, he finds out that Hour loves her and maybe tries to push it then, but
there you go. Yep.
I'll leave it at that.
Well, welcome to the problem with it. But next up is the conversation between Gabriel and Teo, as Teo is ready to quit after giving his assignment to Billings, Montana. And as a black man, I fully understand why you would quit after being forced to go to Montana. Only Kevin Costner is there on the Yellowstone Ranch. I don't want no other parts of Montana. But here is what Gabriel tells Teo the truth, which is, once you get there, the reason you're being sent there, and it's deliberate, is because you can't follow orders. And the moment you arrive in Billings, you will answer to no one.
Yep.
But also, no one will like you. The cops don't like you. There's no backup there for you. It's basically the best way you can learn to be an agent. What do you think about this? And Gabriel at the end saying, you're the best agent I've ever trained.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was an amazing scene, because I was like, Teo's reaction makes sense for the MO of who Teo is. It's just what Gabriel was saying was the truth. Like, you question everyone because you're conditioned really to be a leader. Like, that's just who you are. Like, you're smart, you're inventive, like, you don't just let yourself, like, have an emotional reaction. Like, people that are calm and collect, like, when they need to, they can drive and move left or right easily without having an emotional reaction. That's Teo in spades. Like, he don't just emotionally, he calculates. Like, how am I going to calculate how to set you into a situation that I want? And Gabriel saw that in him. This is so fascinating, because as soon as he said, like, you can't follow orders, he followed that up with, no one. You will have to answer to no one, meaning that puts him in the best place to lead. Because, like, from an infrastructure standpoint, like, he's got it in him to set up anything and everything. So it makes sense to line up how he goes, as far as his career from this point. I think it was the thing that messed me up was when he said, I'm in a committed relationship now. I think that was the first time that he kind of like is like
openly admits it. Yeah,
I got that weakness. Like, he's telling Gabriel, like, I got a weakness here, essentially. And this is a black woman. She's not gonna go for this, and I don't know what to do with that. That's basically what I interpreted from him. And he was like, look, bro, I'm not gonna make the decision from you, but you are the best agent I've ever. And he's not just giving him smoke, like he's being very serious. Gabriel, on so many terms, like that. I think that time when he got in that fight with that white dude,
Yeah.
and Gabriel was like, yeah, if he don't make it, y'all all gone. I think Gabriel legitimately was being very serious. Like, if he does not make it, y'all are all gone. And he found a way of still beating those odds. Like he's been looking at him ever since then. Maybe even from the beginning, to be honest with you. But yeah.
Hey, as they said from the beginning, they were all analyzing every person that came in the door.
Yeah.
So I kind of think they already knew the person they had in him. And it's because of his background. His background comes from a thinking aspect of life.
Yeah.
Like, you're not playing the stocks, you're not doing all of this without fully thinking.
Yeah.
And because of that, they use that to their advantage. Like, what happens if you train an ultimate thinker and switch what he's thinking about? What do you think is going to happen? You're going to become an amazing agent. But
Yeah.
you're also going to become a person who can never follow an order because you're going to question everything humanly possible.
Yep.
So, again, it makes perfectly good sense for him to be there. But I think this is also the beginning of why Tails' marriage broke apart. Because he told him, I'm going to leave this up to you to decide. But he also stroked Teo's ego by saying you're the best person I've ever trained. That comes along with the need to be great.
Yep.
And we see what happens in the future with him and his wife. She gladly, we know, and it's not foreshadowing, it's not spoiler or anything. We've already seen the shit. She moved to Montana. She had no issue being there.
No.
What she had an issue was Teo leaving her to be great. He didn't care. He pursued one thing, and she was no longer the prize that was needed. And here at the beginning, we kind of see it foreshadowed what's going to happen with him when she's no longer the prize. But next up, we get Honor and Poet. Again, we already talked about it. We don't care about Honor and Poet. As they talk about her other love interest, which is Lennox. And for some odd reason, Honor feeling the need to tell Poet that Lennox is seeing someone else. And this is right before Drew comes in, and she gives the news to Poet that you're not going to San Diego. We want you to be an undercover agent. But also informing Poet, this comes with sacrifice. This is not going to be easy, but it's possibly the most rewarding position in the FBI. So, one, what did you think about the conversation between Owl and Poet? And Owl, for some odd reason, feeling the need to tell Poet that Lennox is seeing someone else after she tells her everything Lennox told her about not even wanting to go to DC. And then about the assignment that Poet is given.
Yeah, I think this is the hard part about this not being like a linear storyline is that we know, later on that Hour is going to go and rush into a relationship. And I mean, I think this is kind of a precursor to it. It's like, she's like, the object of my affection doesn't even see me.
Yeah.
Because she's so blinded by either one, her ambition or this other distraction over here. So, you know what, like, screw this. And I don't think he was really with anybody. I think she just said that to try to throw a Poet off. I think she was hurt because in her mind, this whole entire time you said you don't want the boy, you're throwing it away, you're pushing it away, and now like he's in a completely different side of the United States, and now you want to be closer to him.
Yeah.
Like, nah, bro, like bump all that. So I think she was just throwing dirt in Poet's face, and I mean, rightly so. Like Poet's playing games, but the whole part about her being the special agent, I think the key thing was like Drew said, like, look, there's a lot of sacrifice here. And Poet said, oh, I'm fine. Let's do it. Like, Ninja, you
No
just
thought
said,
process in the world.
like you said like 20 minutes ago with somebody else that you're willing to go and be with this other man wherever he's at. Like, what are you, like, rationally, you're not thinking about this. You're just making a reaction. And it goes back to, I think, Lennox said this to her in the future. Our said this to her in the future. Like, you always go and do these things to sabotage your own happiness because you choose to do it. Like you start getting conditioned and comfortable, like you try to put anything as a roadblock right in front of it.
Yeah.
And that's what she's doing. Like she jumping head first in this craziness. Like she's freaking nuts. But I think it goes back to, like you said, Gabriel and Teo's conversation, like that little bit of stroke ego. Like as soon as Poet heard from Drew that this could be the most rewarding thing in the FBI, like that's all she heard. It didn't even matter.
Yep.
Like she's like, oh, I can be great and people will perceive me as great. That's all I need to hear. And
her insecurities show. And her insecurities led her to take a job because the importance of the job. Not that it needed to be something she actually needed to do, and because Owl broke her heart by telling her that Lennox found someone else.
Yeah.
So it made it easier to leave everything alone. Right after she was literally just talking about, I can see us being in San Diego together or DC together. Like it's absolutely odd there. But next up, and this is not overly an important scene to dive into, but this is just Poet arriving back at what looks like the new FBI HQ and or Honor's portion of what's going on in the FBI. And Honor's questioning Poet about why she's there. This is right after the first suspect is captured by the system, and then the bank is brought down. As Poet tells Honor, we have way more suspects than we can handle at this point. And right after telling her that, she tells her the FBI is putting her up somewhere else, and Honor, of course, offers to keep her because clearly we know where that's going at. But again, not much to talk about this scene besides just more of unnecessariness between Hour and Poet at this point that I really don't care about.
Well, I will say that we find out how Poet gets her apartment in the future. Like that was the connection. That's the same exact apartment that
that's the same part, but because Hour brings it up when she comes there in the future in a couple of episodes ago when she brings it up, so you still have that apartment.
Yeah.
But next up is another big action set piece for this show, and this is someone breaking into Teo's home. And then Teo being attacked. It's not much to talk about in this scene as it pertains to setting it up. But what did you think about this complete setup, from it clearly feeling like someone broke into there to the way they shot this scene, this full-on action scene of Teo and whatever assailant this is?
Yeah, there's a show that I watch on AMC. It's called Gangs of London. There was a similar scene to that, and it was. I mean, of course, that was way more dramatified. Like, I think the thing that I got from this, which is so good, is that Teo felt like something was off. Like his instinct started to kick in, and I think that, normally you would kind of be like, "All right, baby, hold on for a second." He played it so calm. Like he didn't look for a flashlight. He didn't look for his gun. He didn't look for a knife. Like he kind of walked casually, almost kind of playing possum to me. Because initially I was like, okay, like you go walk all the way through. You're checking every single corner. I can see out the corner of your eye. You're watching every corner. I give credit to Brian Tyree Henry for that.
It's an amazing setup the way they did that.
Right. He goes outside, looks around the perimeter. He kind of even looks at the door to see if the door had been shimmied or anything. And then he kind of walks back in casually, drinking his water. Because what he's really doing, in my opinion, is he's clearing every single room. But he's acting like, he's just going down to the bath, going downstairs.
He's making sure it's not more assailants. He's making sure it's only one person.
Right.
And that's why he set that up that way.
Right. Because even him going into the bathroom, I kind of felt like he knew the dude was in the bathroom, which was crazy. But he got in there and immediately, like, he was not surprised. He had a backhand elbow already ready and set, but he did get shanked. But yeah, dude, that joint was nuts, because I think it goes back to what Gabriel said in the beginning of the episode. Like, you have to look at an impossible situation and you're not going to stop. This is not even a part of it. And Teo didn't, like, even down to like he's shanked. He pulled the knife out, stabbed the dude a couple different times in the side, had his freaking head up against the gosh darn bathtub, asking him, who sent you? And I'm like, you bleeding out yourself, sir. Why are you asking questions right now? That man died.
At
I
that
don't know
point,
who
it
he
was
was, but he
well.
died.
And then the other key part was he did all of that to get that guy in that bathroom.
Yeah.
Because he needed him away from his wife.
Yeah.
So as long as Teo is downstairs, he's not going to go upstairs and attack his wife because then it would alert Teo.
Yep.
So he's like, okay, the goal is to kill me and then possibly kill my wife.
Yep.
But you can't kill her first. Because if
Mhm.
she dies first, it's going to alert me that you're there.
Yep.
And you can tell by the moment he get the backhand, he immediately grabbed the door and locked it.
He did.
So at that point, and he stuck something in there. So basically saying, guess what? Even if I die in here, you're never going to get to her.
Right.
Yeah. Like it's an amazing setup. I love this scene. I love the action in the scene. It made me wonder, why doesn't David Tyree Henry do more action movies? Not the one where he plays a gay superhero like he did in the Marvel movie. That's not real action. Like just actual action. I think he can nail it more than what he did in that Marvel movie that no one even remembers came out.
Yeah,
But
everybody
next up,
remembers him in Bullet Train more than that.
hey, clearly, because that another action movie. But next up, we go to the future at Murphy's funeral. The biggest thing to talk about here, because the biggest reveal is this is when Teo fully accepts that that system is crooked.
Yep.
And that something is wrong. What I like about the scene and what I want you to comment on the scene about is as Teo's feeling guilty, Lennox and Poet tell him, you shouldn't. This is not on you. We all believed in this system at one point in time.
Yeah.
What did you think about that quick conversation at Murphy's funeral and finally the realization that Teo is not the evil one here?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what Ramos said. Like when Ramos is like, "Look, find out what Teo knows, not stop Teo, not
Yep.
like get him out of like find out what he knows." And like I think it's fascinating that they all collectively take responsibility for what kind of happened in so many different ways. Because I didn't know if Poet had it in her to do that.
Yeah.
But she was the one that said it. And then of course Lennox followed back up. Our didn't say shiggity because our been warning them from day one, like y'all shouldn't do
This system is evil. Don't
like,
put AI in my system. This is what's
like
gonna happen if you put AI into my yeah.
yeah, but she's there, she's still there to support as she's always done, the dutiful friend. But yeah, and I thought that was actually really dope because then he kind of was like, y'all have done everything y'all can do. Now it's my turn. And I was like, Teo, I get what you're trying to do, but I think I think you're still gonna need them because how you think you're gonna stop this? Like you haven't. There's no way for you to have conceivably felt like, oh, okay, I do this action. This is the end of it. There's no way. And then of course we see the next scene, but yeah, I think he had to make that decision for himself, but he can't do this alone. There's no way.
Yep.
He's not gonna be able to stop this alone. Because I think it goes back to why would Ramos go to Poet to begin with? Ramos knows
Teo
the
could
person
stop it.
that's willing and able to stop this.
Exactly. And next up, we're just going to combine all of these things because I don't think any one of these things are singly that important, but it just leads to the end of the episode. First, we get Teo attempting to shut down the system and him being told by Warren, I think is this guy's name.
Yeah, that was the kid that was with the old man back in the day.
Yep. That if you attempt to shut down the system won't shut down, but you'll be fired. Then right after that, we see a quick scene of, again, Poet's love life, which is not making any sense here, of Lennox asking Poet to marry him. And at the same time of them discussing their lives together, we see a picture come across the screen of Teo being fired from the FBI. And to me, the last important aspects of this episode is the conversation between Teo and his ex-wife in his favorite restaurant. So what do you think about those three scenes? From one, the progression of seeing Teo attempting to shut down this machine, to Poet and Lennox quick conversation about marriage, which is not important. But them also seeing a reveal here of Teo being fired and what's said on the news about him. And then finally what's set up between Teo and his ex-wife.
Yeah. The scene with Teo in the room and him getting like the iPad and putting the code, and I was like, bro, you looking real desperate right now. And I know this is a bad situation. I know you put this on yourself, but
Yep.
this ain't the way to do it,
No.
because I felt like the system went easy on him, to be honest with you. Like, because it kind of was like, oh, there's a threat, and it kept it up there as a threat. It never said he was neutralized.
Nope.
It just said that he was a threat. So I don't know if the system's gonna still go after him. But yeah, I knew for a fact that other guy, he just wanted to be the director anyway. Like, there's a reason why he was kind of with that guy.
Always beside the other director.
Yeah,
And questioning everything.
Yeah, he always was waiting for the opportunity. Now I don't think he fully realized what he's about to do, because we see him going into the server rooms like, yeah, Teo was really tame. Like, let's see what it can really do. Like, Ninja, you about to it's about to be looking like Judge Dredd
Skynet.
outside.
Skynet. Terminator 2. That's what it's about to look like.
But yeah, with Lennox and Poet, I could throw up over that whole thing. Like, it was the most cringy throwaway thing, and I was like, Poet, what the heck are you talking about? Like, I was like, and it goes back to, again, like, he asked, like, is there anything else? And I'm like, bro, she was just in another woman's bed that's married, kissed her, and she kissed you, and y'all had sex, but then she's kind of like, bro, it's too messy. Like, there's a reason why it's been 20-something years. And yeah, the fact that she still hasn't acknowledged our to him, like, I can't accept her saying that she really in love with him.
Loves him. Yeah.
Like, nah, it's because if that was the truth, she would say, oh, look, I gotta be honest with you, all these years, like, I've been garbage. I've also had somebody else in my heart, like, stuff like that. Like, she just blindly was like, and if at the end of this joint they end up together, I call BS. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, but I really think what's gonna end up happening is only two people gonna be left. It's gonna be Teo and it's gonna be Poet. But that's neither here nor there.
We already know. We kind of see the foreshadowing on the walls already here.
Yeah, but so what they try to give me is that they finally have their moment, of coming back together, and it's reminiscent of Teo and his wife coming back together. But there's two totally different things that are going on, because with his wife, she conditionally knows the importance of this man and what he's done, and he acknowledges his faults. Like, every single small little thread of responsibility, he's owning it, even down to, like, him, saying, like, look, bro, like, I don't know what to do, and it's just such a weird parallel alternate to what Poet's doing. It made the whole Poet scene look so terrible,
lame. Yes.
But yeah, no, I love his wife and his relationship, man. It's so real. It really is so real, because she even goes up to him and kisses him like, look, we can figure this out. And I bought every minute of it. Because he doesn't know what to be without being FBI anymore. He never not had a job before. This is his first time drinking, like, all these different things, and like, she's there, and I love their relationship. I'm not even gonna lie to you, it was such a sweet scene.
It's because Teo has finally lost his mistress.
Yep,
that's what it was, and his mistress was the job.
Yeah,
and with the job being gone, she's like, then maybe you can be the person who I fell in love with.
Yeah,
because the job is no longer an obstacle here, and I think that was the way that was set up at the end. Because it was finally Teo seeming comfortable, and it was because she brought that comfort to him. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go in these final couple of episodes. But, sir, let's get to the end of this one. Your final thoughts on this episode 7, Orders Night.
Yeah, this was a really freaking good episode. I mean, aside from Lennox and Lennox and Poet's
yeah.
foolishness, there were so many really good scenes. Like, this is one of the better episodes. Like, I think this is up there with like episode 1 and maybe even the ranch episode. Ranch episode might be one of the best episodes, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that coming off that cringy FBI building fall to where we are right now, I mean, I'm glad that it found a little bit more of a stride, and I think this is another really good complimented episode. This is a good episode.
Yeah, this is possibly the second best episode of the season. I think the ranch episode is still the best episode of the season, but this is a very close second as we finally get to see what the FBI and what we're told the FBI sees in Poet.
Yeah.
And along with another great showing of the character of Teo, and a lot of the distractions, especially from the last episode, were eliminated this episode. Granted, we still get the cringy scenes of Poet and Lennox, but it doesn't overshadow that this is a episode about the setup of the system and how the system can work for good, and how the system, when it turns, how it can be a horrible thing for you. I think I love those setups. So again, you can catch this episode right after this episode airs on Wednesday morning. It airs at 12, maybe about 1-ish. You should be able to catch this review, recap, and let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about Lennox and Poet getting married. And will Jagged Edge perform at their wedding? Because clearly, if they might as well just say it, we might as well do it, because that's exactly how that came across, as completely unbelievable. What do you think about the setup at the beginning with Poet, though, and her using the system to break her big case? And then we see in the present, she clearly is in charge in some way, shape, form, or fashion on the cases that the system is spitting out to her. And then what do you think about Teo, from his initial use of the system down to him using it to bring down the banks, and then finally from him being fired from the system? And what do you think this guy Warren is going to do with the system now that Teo is gone? Let us know all those thoughts, comments, like, subscribe, everything to Team JVS. Peace, people.
We're gone. Undercover 2. Peace, people.
Oh, that's some BS. No one's gonna watch.
Falling out the top of I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on the timeline.